This conference will now be recorded.
And Joel, you got to go on to some part. Thank you. Now we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please, Kelly.
Leroy Vogt.
Here.
Kyle Go.
Here.
Dale Schmidt.
Here.
Jessica Albertson here. Robin here. Here. Missy Cookie.
Here.
And Linda Moss.
Here. Please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 4 is action on the agenda, a motion to approve the agenda unless someone has any changes with it.
Well, I read it. Woman, I do motion to approve it.
Motion by Dale.
I'll second.
Second by Jessica. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed.
I did read it.
Motion carried. And Dale really did read it. Action on minutes. For those of you that maybe did not get the minutes, there is a hard copy up here. It wasn't maybe in the original packet. Did all the committee members get your agenda packet for this meeting?
This morning.
This morning, okay.
I
So,
got mine earlier, but the minutes were.
okay, so here's minutes if anyone needs. There's some here, but I think they're in the original packet, right, Cal? The ones you. Okay. So I don't know what happened with not getting it sent out to you, so we'll hopefully get that taken care of. But so everyone, if you can look at the minutes, Annette. I'm sorry.
Jessica, you didn't get that packet itself at all?
No, we did. None of the committee members.
Well, I know the minutes weren't attached.
None of them got the packet. So somehow they got missed.
I'm thinking Terry must not have emailed the group out after
Yeah.
the agenda was posted online until Tracy found out this morning, and then you probably have an email now if you didn't check.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
It was-
Kyle
came late,
reached, yeah, Kyle reached out, what, Sunday or Saturday, I don't remember. Yeah, and then, but then the minutes were, I noticed the minutes weren't in my packet, I'm here. Other than that, about 80 years ago. Didn't realize we didn't get it. So we'll work on that, hopefully we can post to you. So any corrections on the minutes, anybody? I have a few more, but if anybody else have anything? While you're looking, I'll just say mine real quick. Kelly, item 8A, the second paragraph, first sentence, and it says Hummel spoke on Green Bay scorecard and make changes in the city for bike and pedestrian safety. Could you change that to bicycle? Or bicyclist, I'm sorry. So it's a bicyclist and pedestrian safety. Then 8B, again, first sentence in 8B, the traffic committee is a traffic, bicycle, and pedestrian commission that Green Bay has. Again, bike should be replaced with bicycle. And then the last sentence in B, also where it says some of the bike and pedestrian board would like to present, that's again referring to us as the bicycle and pedestrian committee. It's not a board, it's a bicycle. Again, picky little things, but and then in 9, the last sentence, look at the area for bike and pedestrian accommodations, that should be bicycle again. And 10, the adjourn, bicycle and pedestrian meeting rather than bike, because a bike can be a motorcycle as well. So
You got it.
if you can say bicycle, that'd be great. So it's just I guess the titles. Annette or anybody else, anything else that you saw?
Not here, I found one with the report, but not.
All right, then I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes, please.
I move we approve the minutes.
Moved by Linda,
I'll second.
second by, was that Leroy?
Yeah.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6 is comments from the public. Must be limited to items on the agenda, must state name and address, limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen and discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named, and board is not able to take action at this meeting. There's no public online, it looks like, and I don't see anybody in here except for staff in the back, so you guys aren't considered public, are you? So I don't believe we have anything unless anybody from the committee does, but we can get those later.
Nope.
Okay, 7, our 7 reports and updates. Before we get into that, I just would like to let staff know, for those of you that are here to give reports and updates, feel free to leave after you're done. You do not have to sit here. I appreciate you being here. If you want to stay on, there's an agenda item that you want input on, and we watch, it's really good that you would stay. But please feel free to leave after your report if there's nothing on the agenda you want to say, because I know everybody's busy. So with that, first one on there is Brian from Public Safety. Anything on your end, Brian?
So as far as updates from public safety, we've not had any additional bicycle or pedestrian related crashes since the few that we had in January. I suppose probably not too surprising considering some of the winter conditions and crashing on our vehicle. As far as staffing, we are still working to fill our allocated spots. As far as effective patrol staffing right now, unfortunately we are down a little bit. We've got a couple staff that are out on injury. So still our goal to have fill our spots. We do have a police and fire commission meeting tomorrow night where we'll be interviewing a couple of potential lateral transfer candidates. So things are trucking along pretty good. It's just going to be a matter of time of getting some candidates that are wrapping up their associate's degree, getting some non-sworn candidates on board who will need the academy. So we'll be ready again in February. And then we did actually swear in 2 brand new candidates who finished their field training at the last village board meeting. Had them there with their families and whatnot. So they are on their own and protecting the mean streets at night. So we're trucking along pretty good. I'm optimistic that we should hopefully be able to fill our allocated spots here from this summer. And then be training a few in the meantime. Other than that, no real changes. That's the biggest organizational hurdle right now is getting our effective staffing back up, especially to our new threshold.
That's good.
Curiosity only. So when they actually graduate from school, do you then train them as paramedics and fire, or are they already prepped with all that?
So that is kind of a mixed bag. So we have hired people in the past that have paramedic, fire, or police.
Yeah.
The ideal candidate, we kind of refer to them as the unicorn candidate, is the one that has law enforcement, paramedic, and fire. We've come close. We just hired a guy who actually, I forgot to mention this, we did hire one of those almost unicorn candidates. He came to us with a paramedic license and was also a police officer up in Marinette. So he's going through field training right now. He's on his 3rd or 4th week. He's been on the job as a cop for a couple of years. Been on a paramedic for probably 5-6 years. Looks to be a rock star candidate.
Yeah, nice little gift.
So we did very good getting him on board. Now he will need the fire training, so we'll send him through firefighter 1 in the fall. He'll be done with field training then. We'll get past the summer rush, and then we'll send him to night classes at NWTC while he's working the night shift. For some of the candidates we're looking at this summer, we've got 2 that we are looking at that would need the police academy. We would send them through the academy at NWTC starting in July, and that goes till roughly mid-November. Once they get out of that academy, we put them through field training. They'd be done with field training probably roughly February of 24. And then we'd start getting them through if they need EMT. That's the first thing we'd send them through. So the candidates we hired this summer, they'd get off of field training in February of 24. We'd send them through EMT probably the fall semester of 24. Send them through Fire 1 the spring semester of 25. So we'd be looking probably May of 25 till they're fully cross-trained for police, fire, and EMS.
Well, so you guys have the ability to go into, I'm getting off the agenda here, but the ability to go into the school system and allow the seniors, juniors to know what that profession is like?
We do actually have a program for that. It's referred to as our public safety cadet program. Previously it had been the Explore program. And we are always willing to have candidates. We are looking to make a good recruitment drive at the end of the school year. And actually we've had discussions about targeting 8th graders actually, because you need to be out of 8th grade and 14 years old. So We think that'd be probably pretty successful for them and for us as an agency if we get them in the younger they are. So we'll have several years of them being exposed to this profession, and hopefully they know by the time they're picking colleges if this is what they want to do. And then we'd also have several years with them to see if they are a quality candidate with what we think is a bright future. We do have one of our cadets that was hired as a community service officer, so he started out as a cadet. Is still actually in the cadet program because he hasn't aged out of it. You can stay in until you're 21. But we hired him as a community service officer. He's going to be going through school, or he is going through school at NWTC. And if all goes well, he should be eligible for police certification by May of 25, hopefully.
Yeah, great.
So
Great.
it's a long-term investment, but so far it's usually paid off. People we sponsored through the academy, so far they've been paying off for us as well. So it's a lot of investment on the head end, but we try to play the
That's
long.
the way it works today though, right?
It is.
It's not just here. It's,
Yeah, so we can get ones that'll stay for 10, 15 years versus, paying a hiring bonus and getting somebody that might only stay a year or two.
yeah, retraining somebody else. Yep. Thanks, bro.
Thanks, Brian. Anybody, any other questions? All right, then we'll go to Public Works and Engineering, which is also Brian on the end over there.
All right, so I'll run through my monthly report here very quickly. The very first two items that we have are kind of waiting until the winter moves away and move into spring, summer season. Believe it or not, Morris Ave reconstruction. We do have our public information meeting tomorrow night for that, along with our pre-construction meeting with the contractor tomorrow. They are hoping to start work actually later this week. So things are coming very quick. You'll start to see posts on social media about the start of that project. They're going to start off by pulverizing the roadway and then moving on to installing the new sanitary sewer. Element Way is kind of trailing a week behind that with the public information meeting for that project to be on March 22nd. And then they plan to start that following week.
Question,
Yes.
is it from Oneida to Marvell or Oneida to Holmgren?
Oneida to Marvell.
Well, Oneida's this way, Marvell, but how could be Oneida to Marvell?
Because Element Way kind of hooks and goes downward. So Element Way, so you have Morris is from Oneida to Holmgren. Element is from Oneida to Marvell because it goes, the way that Element goes, it actually hooks and turns downward and ties into Marvell. It's like a J.
It's got that little fish hook
Okay, so
that
it's in-
intersects with Marvell.
So it's kind of goofy. So when you come on Element Way, so we'll start from Sammy's Pizza, you'll go east, and then the road bends a hard 90, and it goes south and ties actually into Marvell. And if it was to come straight, it would kind of run into our building right here, but it has a hard 90 in it. So.
Okay.
You have to go drive it in that.
I thought I always did, but I just didn't.
Am I explaining it okay, or is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Snow removal on trails and sidewalks. We kind of have a terrible deck of cards. So we kind of had a 4-day snow event that occurred end of February. Of course, that was piggybacked with the voting cleanup, rubbish pickup, and just our normal trash and recycling. So we kind of had the worst deck of cards possible, but we pushed through and got things somewhat shaped up. We're kind of seeing, our snowbanks larger than they've ever been. So those narrow terraces are proving to be kind of challenging for us because you kind of wing the snow one way, it pushes out onto the road, and then the plow truck comes through and pushes it back on the sidewalk. So we're finding some areas where we're actually going out with a snowblower and blowing it outside of the right of way because that's the only place we have to go in the snow. So.
For as wonderful as January and February was,
I know.
Yeah.
Right, right.
the end of February and March has been absolutely terrible for the snow.
Unless you snowplow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're glad.
They're pretty happy.
Anything else, Brian, or any questions for Brian? I have a couple quick ones. On Cormier, if you determine that the stencils need to be replaced, when do you when would those be done if you determine that that's needed?
That is a good question, because I've never really been here when we go into our summer operations, know when we send out our guys to do painting, so.
Usually it's like the weeks leading up to preseason. So we try to get everything done prior to Packer preseason. So once training camp starts, we'd like to be done with all the striping activities.
Okay.
Generally, painting, you'll see, on days that it's warm, not windy.
Yeah.
And dry, so it's not gonna be on a cold, foggy, windy day. Because obviously, putting paint down when it's dry and, it just sets up a lot faster, it dries a lot faster, so it's a lot faster moving process.
Tracy, I remember questioning that after the Cormier reconstruction. And if I recall, the answer I got was, we'll have the contract people do that when they come out, which I believe was later in the summer at that time. So that's kind of what.
Yeah, in a contractor, sometimes rather than using latex paint, they'll use epoxy paint, which dries a lot faster. It's a two-part paint system. So their window of applying paint is a little bit more open than what we have with our stencils that we do in-house.
Okay. Thank you. And then I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Ryan, I just wanted to tell you on the southwest corner of Packerland and Main. So when it goes down, yeah, I guess it would be West Main, yep. There's this like rumbled metal plate that's on where the sidewalks go down and go into the road. And I think a plow or somebody hit part of that, and now it's up. It's bent up, and it could be a hazard for people walking or bikes. They're going to hit that.
Okay.
But you probably can't even see it now because I think there's so much snow in those walkways right now. You wouldn't notice it, but I noticed it when the snow melted a couple times that there's now this big piece bent up. Or it's not really big, but it could hurt somebody. I mean, I don't know. Like
Yeah, no, we can check it out. You said southwest or
it's
southeast?
the southwest corner.
Southwest, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can add that to my list.
So by Ameriprise then?
Yes.
Okay.
Or
Or whatever it's
American
called now.
Family.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Whatever it
Yes,
is.
that corner
Yeah.
of American.
Linda, just so you're aware, those metal
Yeah, what
plates,
are
those are called detectable warning fields. They're
Okay.
basically designed for individuals with seeing impairments.
Oh, okay.
So you
I was
actually
wondering
feel
about
the
that.
tactile bumps under your feet, and
Right.
you know
They're
you're at
bumpy,
a
yeah.
crossing.
Mhm.
So I know that Brian has a comment on that in one of his report updates too on Hanson and Broadway.
Okay.
So they're required for ADA purposes when you have a designated crossing. of the
Right.
road.
Well, that makes sense.
Any other questions on that? No? All right, thank you, Brian. Park and Recs.
Not too much earth shattering. We've got the bridge construction, which is continuing at Ashwaubenon Park. They brought in a second crane, so now we've got a crane on each side of the Ashwaubenon Creek. And they have until Wednesday to finish it up. At least the piling, the in-water work. In-water work needs to be done by the end of the day on the 15th. Per the DNR regulations, so it doesn't disturb fish spawn.
So if they don't get it done, then how long would they have to wait to go back and do that?
I want to say end of June, early July.
Oh, so then really good.
Yeah, July 1st.
July 1st though. Are they on schedule? Are they?
Well, that's why they have a second crane.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Which was an unexpected expense, which they're still gonna hit us up with.
Yeah.
But yeah. Long story short, I mean, they're behind because the water level was so low, they weren't able to take the crane and put it onto the bridge. They had to literally build a coffer dam and then dig out that area. Coffer dam is like a little mini dam. They drive in these plates into the water and then they suck the water out of it. And then they can dig out the bottom or put matting or whatever, put matting actually and stone in that area. So now the crane can drive out there and more easily meet the barge, because the barge wouldn't be able to get that close to shore. So then once that is done, then the crane goes back onto the shoreline, then they have to excavate any material that they put into the cofferdam, then they have to pull out the plates that made the cofferdam. So it's a process.
That's why I noticed, because we did spring preview homes and noticed that the crane was out. I'm like, it looks like it's out on the land out there.
Yeah. Is there one of them?
But the water is extremely shallow right now. The water's probably down at least 2 or 3 feet. So, the crane on the south side, the boom can just reach out and they can do the driving of the piers, from the shore. They don't have to have a second barge. So just a second crane. That's really it for me.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. Kelly, did Wallow send you anything? Sometimes they'll send something over. No, she wouldn't be here. Okay, no report from Wallow then. I'll go on to 8A is discussion, discussion and possible action on West Main Avenue Trail final phase, sorry. Rex, I believe you got this one.
Well, this is
Sure. So, for quite a while, we obviously talked about West Main, and if you remember, what was it, about 2 years ago, because of when we thought TIF 4 was going to close, we went from Sand Acres up to South Ridge. That's what we were told we can get done within that period of time, which is why we didn't go any farther. So that's been done. That finished up this spring. This spring is when TIF 4 is supposed to close, but due to a couple different factors, TIF 4 isn't going to be closed until next spring. So we still have a little bit of time. And the thought is we probably don't have time to actually build the trail to Highway 41, but we have time to do the planning of the trail and potentially figure out exactly what right-of-way we need and potentially even secure that right-of-way. So that basically the project, when funding or grant opportunities arise, it's shovel ready. That's part of the reason why we bore the cost of this last section is we were not shovel ready. We didn't have those sections of property when the utility lines, fiber optic and whatnot, needed to be relocated because of the trail. We didn't have that property in hand where we could. There just wasn't enough room, so we had to use private property, which means we needed to have easements for that. So, and that's what so that's a negotiation. What's it going to charge? What are you going to charge for an easement? And so then you have to do offers and counter offers and so on and so forth. So that's probably going to happen again, no matter what we do, whether we do a sidewalk or a trail on the remaining section from Ridge down to 41. But TIF 4 should be able to pay for that. We think there's going to be enough money for that planning. So it would be identifying where all the utility and fiber optic lines are, identifying where a sidewalk and or trail would go, and then figuring out is there enough room to relocate that, or do we need to get more easements from private property owners, and then the discussion would happen, okay, what are those easements going to cost us, and basically get those easements. That way we've got them, we're ready to go for grant opportunities, should those come about. It sounds like with all of our plans that we've got, that trail connection will eventually happen, right? So we should probably try and set it up so that it can happen a lot easier when time comes. We're going to do it anyway. Let's use some of those TIF 4 dollars and do it now. So that's kind of where we're at with that trail. Now, with the trail itself, I think we probably want to make a recommendation to Village Board to expend dollars for that planning process, whether or not you feel it's a worthy project. And also, quite honestly, I know what our preferences are probably, but I don't know if it's going to be feasible, whether we do a trail versus a sidewalk. A couple different things. A trail, what we currently have now, is 10 feet wide. And typically we have a couple of additional feet on either side for maintenance purposes. So it's a fairly large swath. Typically when you do that, especially with a 10-foot wide trail, if you're relocating utilities, you're needing to put them well off of the trail itself. So that's gonna be more private property that would need to be, acquired via easements, to relocate those utilities. Private property owners sometimes don't mind it, sometimes they do mind it. Like, I don't want all these additional utilities and stuff underneath because that means it's less potential lawn or space that they have to work with, whether they want to plant trees, whether they want to put a big post in the ground, whatever. Now they can't do it because there's an easement. So that's some of the challenges as you're moving forward with these types of projects. When you go a little further to the east, we've got the bridge that crosses Ashwaubenon Creek. That bridge already has a sidewalk. Granted, it butts up right next to the curb. Not the best situation, but a pedestrian bridge crossing that would probably be more than the actual project itself. If we were to have to build a bridge to accommodate the trail. And then actually looking at it just before the snow looking at Google Maps actually, and I did that. That sidewalk, not only is it on the bridge, but it actually extends a ways to the east, past the creek. So that's less sidewalk. I mean, it might need some work. I don't know what this quality of the concrete work is. But bottom line is, it's going to be a lot more affordable and doable when the time comes as a sidewalk versus a trail. And so my recommendation, just kind of knowing internally how things work and dollar wise and what this will already cost, because there will be utility relocation. And then there's going to have to be tree removal at the band house. It's going to have to be a fairly large retaining wall because of the downslope. That's going to run quite a bit of money. So my recommendation is, if we have hopes of doing the project, our best bet is probably just to switch over to a sidewalk for this last stretch.
I have some questions. On trails, I'm not a biker, so on trails, do you bike on trails, do you bike on the street?
When there's a trail, if it's a 10-foot wide trail like Rex was talking about, it's considered a multi-use. So you can bike or walk, and it's bi-directional, and you can go either direction on it. A sidewalk traditionally is for pedestrians only, and bicyclists would be on the road.
Okay, and the other question is, if it's a sidewalk, who would clean it? We're always talking about cleaning sidewalks. Property owners?
Yeah, that would be up to the village board to make that determination.
They better think about that.
I can throw out like option 1B potentially, and that is doing a trail from South Ridge to that cul-de-sac. What is that?
Arts. No.
Art.
Is it Arts? No, am I off?
Yeah, I think it is Arts. So it's like a one block. So we could continue it a smaller portion of the trail to Arts, which if then you went down Arts, eventually, we hope, when the Mann family decides to sell that farmland back there, we could make the connection to the Sand Acres Park Trail, which is the Crusher Dust Trail. So then it would be a nice loop of all, except on Arts, of the majority being trail. And then from Arts to Highway 41, we could do that sidewalk.
Makes sense.
But again, I don't know, again, whatever we do, the trail's gonna cost more money just because of the additional right of way and additional. So if I were to make a recommendation to you to go to village board, and you don't have to follow my recommendation, I'll say that right now. I would probably say as we're talking about it, recommend the trail to Arts, sidewalk from Arts to 41 is option 1. And then depending upon cost, then option 2 would be sidewalk the whole way. We don't know what the costing is or anything like that. That would be something that McMahon would do for us. I asked McMahon a while back to try and put a proposal together, costing for what this would run us, and have not route map. So they're right in the middle of their current project planning right now. But I should be hearing from them shortly. I left 2 messages to them today about where you at.
And because
I've got a meeting today. It'd be nice to get some information.
because the trail goes to Arts, is it easy enough for the bikes to go onto the road then? Or do they have to stop and go on? I mean, or is it gonna be difficult? Because I know it's a little, and slanted. I mean,
I think Arts is right at the top of the hill, so
it won't be too much. of a
I mean,
problem.
there'll be a curb cut there, so they go right down onto the Arts itself. I don't think would have, because it's only what 3 or 4 homes on each side. I don't think we would be doing a sidewalk or a trail on Arts. I think the trail, Sand Acres Park Trail, would probably just open up right onto Arts. And then they use that 100-yard stretch to get to the West Main Trail.
Haley, is there any way you can put that map up for us?
If you want to grab send me the thing, I can.
Because I have it up.
I'm already set up. Or what's
Yeah, you're
set
the
up as a
presenter
presenter.
already.
So I just need to-
So the Van family, is there, has anybody in Florida even thinking about possibly selling that for something?
Not right now.
Oh, okay. Because it would be advantageous to have that there.
They're very content farming it right now.
Yeah,
So it's basically when they decide that they don't want to do that anymore, that's when hopefully we'd be able to have some negotiations with them.
I would say if we're gonna hire a firm to do a plan for us, basically to say what we should do, we should not, in my opinion, tell them we want sidewalk here, we want path here. Let them look at it and make that decision and look at it and see what their recommendation is, because we're hiring them because they're experts on it and can give us the best, hopefully, information on it. So that would be my recommendation, to let them make that decision on what they think would be best.
And it's part of the decision is gonna be how much is everything gonna cost?
Exactly.
So,
path is
and
gonna
we
cost as much,
really
sidewalks as much.
can't, until we know what the difference in costs are gonna be, it's hard to make that decision. Although,
And that bridge will probably cost at least 1 to 1.5 million.
say based on what you're doing
They're the
with
ones
the
doing it.
park
I
that we have right
guarantee
now.
they're gonna
It's gonna be a lot of money.
because it benefits them to recommend the
Right,
bridge.
because it's a bid, it's
Absolutely.
not outside non-biased.
They're still gonna be the planners for it, so they'll be able to.
Yeah, but to have that information.
yeah,
I mean, I'm-
it's good to have, it's always better to
Yeah.
have more information.
They can come up with some cost comparisons.
And when the cost comparisons get to where they get, then you can divide it. If it's too much money, divide it half path, half sidewalk, or all sidewalk, you can divide it then.
Right.
I don't normally bike on that, on West Main a lot down there, but from what I recall, when I do bike on there, it's not that hard to bike anymore. Since they changed that intersection by the highway, I used to bike down the hill and go onto the highway and go into the pier. Well, I'm not driving through all those roundabouts that run on my bike right now. But in this section, I don't think it's difficult to bike there.
It's probably more difficult going west because you got the
Yes.
turn lane.
Yes.
You gotta be so careful.
And you're
if
climbing the
somebody's
hill,
You're
and
climbing
you're
the
going
hill.
slow, yep,
Yep.
so it's tough that way, I totally agree.
But
The good
that-
thing
that's
is
not
that
gonna change.
the section of West Main Trail, when we had it in the summer and fall, I did see quite a few people using it as a loop.
Yeah.
in the neighborhoods.
Really?
Whenever I drove by, there was
Yeah.
always someone on it. So I know that's being used.
Well, I'm with you for future week because that would be so nice to be able to connect it to the park.
Oh, yeah.
And then all the businesses there, I'm sure would be, because they're gonna,
Yeah,
people like to
people can
walk
walk
and get out
there.
at lunchtime
Yes.
and
Mhm.
Yeah.
they get their break.
It's
They don't
not
want
that
to sit in the
far.
building.
The
It's
other
not
thing
that far to
too
get
is
there.
if the Y continues to have plans for vehicle credit,
Why?
there'll be access to
Yeah.
the Y for people that either bike and or
Right.
walk.
It's supposed to open, I think, on April 3rd.
Somewhere, yeah.
Oh, is that the date?
But I heard, some other people have gotten notifications that it's gonna be April. Well, one said April 1st and another one said April 2nd.
So
Now I
there's-
heard April 3rd, so
I'll let Joel has more info. Might not be
I
that
don't have a
early.
firm date, but there are some challenges with the Y site right now that they're working through with the state of Wisconsin as far as code compliance for assembly areas. So originally their plan was to have some areas on floors 3 and 4.
Right.
And because of the nature of the activity, and the use that was designed for that building, they can't use one of the floors for that purpose, so they have to do some moving and shaking. So April 3rd might be a little bit over ambitious. It's gonna happen, it's just a matter of them meeting the state code requirements for that project.
There's a lot of people that are waiting for that.
Yes, there are. Yeah.
I mean, like I go to Western Rec and now myself, but you know, when it's open, I'll go out there. So I mean,
Visualize
probably.
slowing that speed limit down there, because that hill is, that's not.
That particular section is still County Trunk Highway, correct?
Is it? I think it is,
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, we can certainly, and that could come from this committee, even a recommendation requesting the county to do a speed study on that. So they would have to do an engineered study. I don't know when the last time they have done one, but it probably is maybe something worth our while to request that a study be completed. Well, that's kind of outside the scope of this conversation, but if you do end up putting a particular type of infrastructure in there, whether it be a sidewalk or a trail, it probably would be beneficial to kind of have that consideration. I do want to just add to the context of the conversation about trail, sidewalk, and who uses what. So just a reminder that trails are not mandated to be cleared for winter purposes. They could be considered recreational. A sidewalk under statutory law is required to be cleared. So depending on what you want to look at from a mobility standpoint for year-round purposes, a sidewalk guarantees a certain maintenance standard. A trail does not. Now, we've been maintaining trails, but that doesn't mean that there's a guarantee per se that the village is interested in doing that. Traditional policy for the village for sidewalk clearance is if it's considered a safe route to school, the village maintains it. If it's not designated as a safe route to school, the adjacent property owner maintains it. Now, there may be areas here, especially along that creek and that stream, where we would have to maintain portions of it. So like the bridge deck and all that, we would have to maintain that. And I'm not sure how far we would go based on the designation. With that, just for clarity too, if there's a multi-use path along the road, I don't believe that it's lawfully required for a bicyclist to use the path. They can still bike on the road. So just, even though there's a path, doesn't mean that a bicyclist has to use it. They can still use their on-road accommodation.
Well, what's to say they're not gonna use this? I mean, if you go across the Deep Pier Bridge, the majority of people on a bike are not on a road. And I wouldn't either. I'd be on the sidewalk.
On a bike?
The same place they go. Yeah.
I was right on the road.
I ride on the road.
Across from east, boy, when I see people, I normally see them
On the road.
really?
Um,
I don't go on sidewalks. I don't know about Kyle.
I go on the
That's just 'cause
sidewalks
you-
from my driveway to Balsam Way, because I don't want to have to cross Cormier Road twice.
There you go. No,
So I have some more questions.
Follow along.
Are you, so it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other for the property owners. If they do a path, they have to go underneath and it's more onto their property because of the easement, correct? If it's a sidewalk, they have to clean the sidewalks. So is it going to be a village decision or are they going to have a public hearing?
So,
Just curious.
yeah, so I think what I would recommend is if we engage with McMahon to do a study, how the sequence of events basically is McMahon will be engaged with the village. They'll go out and do a bunch of survey work, identify utilities, identify conflicts, things of that nature. And then what they can do is based on what they find in field data, they can conceptually map out what it would look like if a sidewalk were to be installed or a trail. They can kind of look at both, right? So they're going to determine what conflicts are going to exist on the right of way or easement area is necessary based on both type of facilities. If there's a desire to put a trail in, I'm sure they can give us a cost for putting another bridge across the river. If the existing bridge is used with the existing sidewalk, we can engage them to do any of those things and really kind of put all aspects of the proposal or of the project on the table for us to kind of look over, right? And we can, one of the components too, and that this isn't gonna be a real big issue here based on the number of driveways and what future development could occur there. But oftentimes when we look at side paths, we wanna look at how many driveways are gonna intersect that too. So we can look at all those things after we have kind of just some real high level conceptual plans put together based on what we find in the field for conflicts.
I live there, I wanna know either
Oh,
or choice.
yeah, definitely. There's no decisions that are gonna be made without having some firm understanding of what's happening. And there's definitely gonna be some give and take. Obviously, a trail is gonna push easements wider. It's gonna create more conflicts for underground utilities. And it's probably gonna produce less terrace area for winter maintenance operations, which could be a problem. The sidewalk could provide a larger terrace area, but then obviously there's gotta be a decision then as far as winter maintenance. And so what's kind of the better,
I think what's
the
before
lesser of
us,
the two evils?
what's before us today is a planning doc. Do we want the Village of Ashwaubenon to look at using TIF funds to hire a firm to do a planning document? We don't have to decide we're having a trail, we want a sidewalk, it needs to be purple. We don't need to decide any of that right now. That's all what we'll get the information from the consultant whenever they get the project done. And then we can say, yeah, we think there's a sidewalk here and a path here. So we don't have to worry about all this other stuff. This is future. That's future. So I guess what we really need to decide today is whether we want to have that planning document done. And we want to send a recommendation to the village board, asking them to use TIF funds to go ahead with that and have that document done. And looking at it and getting us some good informed information that we can make some decisions in the future. And have it, at least shovel ready. So when we get some grants and things available, we know, where we're at, and we could qualify for some grants in the future, so. So that's really what we're doing. Some of the discussion we're having is really down the road, I think, a little bit further once we get there, so.
We're all excited about this. Tracy,
I
the same
know,
thing.
yes, Kyle.
In this attachment, it's under the heading monetary impact. It says staff have been in contact with McMahon and Associates. They have been asked to put together a planning proposal to get the village shovel ready for this project. So it sounds like we've already asked, the village has already asked McMahon.
We haven't asked them to do the plan.
Oh,
We've asked them to do a cost for the plan.
Oh, okay, I get you.
So presented to the village board that here's what it's gonna cost us for the plan to have McMahon do it.
Oh, I get you.
So that's, if I misspoke on that, that's what I meant.
Will we have to go for bid for this or put an RFP together? Or are we just gonna go straight to McMahon and say, if the village board says, yes, let's go ahead and do this, then will we go straight to McMahon, or will you put an RFQ together or something?
No,
saying-
I don't think we need to do that.
Okay.
I would suggest going with McMahon only because they've done so many other sections of the same route.
Okay.
They already kind of, including, the corner of Ridge and Packard, they've done some work there already. So we already kind of know what utilities are there, or they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be an easy transition to the next phase.
Yep.
If
Okay.
we were to have them continue to be. And they work well with us on the last phase, and then they also did the second from Sand Acres to the industrial park trail crossover. So they've done multiple other sections, and we've had good luck with them.
Okay. Well, sounds good. Just was wondering. All right,
So what's the words we use for that motion?
so I just believe that we should if you feel that someone can make a recommendation to go ahead and ask, send it to the village board to expend TIF funds to have a plan done for the extension of the West Main Trail, or West Main Bike Ped Facility.
From
Ridge East.
to
Ridge to
To
the.
the roundabout? Yeah, second.
All right, motion by Tracy, second by Dale. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried, and then it will go on to village board, their next meeting, is that?
Yep, next one.
Okay, that's next week, already. Okay,
Isn't it? Or is it 2 weeks?
no, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, it's like, it seems like we just. Okay, thank you, you guys.
I have a question. I know presidents can't make motions, but can committee chairs make motions?
I think so, can't they?
Yeah.
And normally I try not to, but okay, yes.
I thought,
I noticed that.
Yeah, and usually I'll have someone else do it.
Maybe it's an unspoken rule, but yeah, even the village president can theoretically they act as a trustee.
okay.
All right, thank you. We'll go on to B, which is, discussion and review of the engineering section of the League of American Bicyclists Bicycle Friendly Community Application. That is the next agenda item. I am going to be abstaining from discussion on this agenda item. My family business, We Bike, does uses League of American Bicyclists as a resource, and I'm going to abstain from it because the bike friendly community application is sponsored by the League of American Bicyclists. But having said that, I still believe that the bicycle friendly process or the bicycle friendly, designation is a good thing. So with that, I am going to leave it to you folks.
So I'll take the lead on the conversation. I think it stems from prior past 2 meetings as it relates to completing aspects of the application at the committee level, just to get a better or more sound idea of maybe where our shortcomings are, and then identify through that the possibility of making a firm recommendation to the village board to apply for the application. If you recall, last month we had one of the planners from the city of Green Bay and Natalie from Willow who assisted in their application process. And so there was some conversation about, what would it take for Ashwaubenon and what would be the benefits of Ashwaubenon actually applying for it. And I think ultimately the true benefit, and I think for the most part we agree that we may not necessarily qualify for a status in our first application, but by applying we would get some recognition from the league as to what we need to work on. Again, what we thought would be, because of the bulk and the depth of the application, let's go through it first as a committee and then kind of make a determination if we feel that it would be beneficial for us to apply. So the first aspect of the application is the engineering section. I did not include section A, which is demographics, because ultimately that's just grabbing census data. That's not difficult to do. We just grab it right from the US Census, plop it in there. There's not a whole lot of conversation. Those are just general facts, and we'll report it as we receive it. So going through the application, looking at each question, generally speaking, there'll be a letter assigned to the section and then a number to the question. And then from that question, there may be a series of sub-questions that are requested for information based on your response to the primary question. So question B1 relates to, does your community currently have any of the following policies in place? This is strictly related to local complete streets ordinances and resolutions. To my knowledge, the village of Ashwaubenon has not adopted a resolution or an ordinance related to complete streets requirement. Kyle, you have a question?
In this document, there are 2 colors of highlights. And did we highlight that after the fact, or is that?
Thank you, good question. So the kind of the turquoise blue highlight, those are questions that have been added as part of this most recent application process.
Okay.
These are supposed to be questions that are geared towards the equity component of the 5Es now.
Okay.
The shaded kind of grayish blue that you see are the subset questions that relate to the primary question.
Okay, and then some of the boxes have an X on them. Did we do that, or?
Yep, so
Okay.
we internally as staff I just went through this anecdotally with what I had for information and made a few notes. So
Okay, thank you. That clears up for me.
yeah, thank you, Kyle. So to my knowledge, I don't believe we've had a resolution passed. I know that we do not have a current ordinance related to it. The state had at one time a complete streets policy and primarily related to state and federal grant funding, but that has since been rescinded. So we really can't claim that. So at this point, I'm not aware of anything, so that would be an easy none of the above. So again, kind of the thought process through this meeting would be, if you are aware of something that maybe we're not, please let us know and we can correct that answer. That gets to question B2 then, because the other questions are related to the primary. And so B2 asks, does your community have bicycle facility selection criteria that increases separation and protection of bicyclists based on levels of motor vehicle speed and volume? And I can't say that we do per se. I guess you could argue that we do have some recommendations within our bicycle and pedestrian plan. So we can certainly do that, but I answered no primarily because when you get to the subset of questions, there are definitely no's to those. So that's why I answered no to the primary question. And so, if you go to B2A or B3, I should say, or B2A, we really don't have if a road project comes in, what we look at is what does our existing bicycle and pedestrian plan state? And then based on the prescribed improvements, that's what would be planned for in the design. But there aren't any specific design specifications that have been adopted by the village. So as an example, Morris, that section of road that's being reconstructed, we looked at the bike and ped plan. It basically called for sidewalks on both sides of the street and then a wide outside lane. And so that's what was designated as part of that project. Don't know why, it's just, that's what the plan stated. So that's what was prescribed as part of the plan.
Can you put in under B2, even though it's no, please describe that we have a bicycle and pedestrian plan as opposed to a selection criteria?
Certainly.
Because I think that they need to know that we have something in place, but it's not necessarily what they want, and they say that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think we could certainly answer B2 as a yes, and just indicate that based on our plan, that's how we use our design.
Yeah, it's because we have all the streets, we know what we want, and we update it all the time. So I'm thinking that's a yes.
The next one is B3. Has your community adopted a design manual or guidelines that establish minimum standards for the design of safe, comfortable, and accessible bicycle facilities? I left that blank because I have no idea. Ryan has any idea? You're not aware of anything? I don't know if the committee is. Tracy can wink at me if she's aware of anything.
I'm thinking that like on pet plan, there are some illustrations just on certain roadways and whatnot, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Mention that, yeah.
I believe we have the bike and pet plan again, where it kind of has recommendations. But I'll give you an example in a prior community. What we had is we had what was called a design manual that listed the minimum specifications of design for any project. And so it was adopted by code. So it was actually codified in the ordinance. So if a developer came in or we were meeting with an engineer on a project, we would simply say, here's our design manual. This has to be required under village code. I don't know that we necessarily have that yet, but if we don't, definitely something that I think we would want to add to our list of to-dos for the future. Because when developers come in, whether it's through site plan or through a platted subdivision, having those codified by code makes it very easy for us to say this is our minimum standard. So if you recall, when we were dealing with some challenges with the Highland Ridge subdivision, we could have easily just said this is our standard. Right?
Yeah, just looking at the bike and ped plan, there's a number of diagrams. So I don't know if, again, would be considered a gray area in my opinion. Like it says what some of the standards are in general of advantages and disadvantages of, wide outside lanes. Like what size should wide outside lanes be? Multi-use paths. How wide they should be? How far away from the curb? So there's typical standards, but it doesn't specifically say Ashwaubenon standard is this. It just says I'm guessing the bike federation, what the standards are, and here's the advantages and disadvantages of those standards.
Yeah, the application and one of the sub questions kind of lists like the different
the
standards you could adopt.
I would say
definitely standards, but it's not made into code, it's not a code.
Correct. I would say that these
Definitely
are all
standards.
strong recommendations. They're in our plan, which
Yep.
means that the
In the
bike
plan.
and ped committee is recommending these standards be followed.
It's just not that word code, something official.
But
We've got-
nothing was officially said, this is what we are doing.
I'll have to update that then. So if that were the case, we would need to identify if any of these designs, so if you look at question B3B, do or does the manual or guidelines incorporate by reference or follow any of the following standards? It probably would be a homework item is, I don't know. I guess I don't know if any of them meet that. I know that I think Ashto is identified by reference a few times. I think, I don't know if NACTO is identified. Ashto for sure, but I'm not sure if any of the other ones are identified. I didn't see them. Okay, so I will update that question. So the next one, does your community currently have any of the following land use or development policies in place that promote shorter distances between homes and destinations? I did mark yes to 2 items for sure that I'm aware of. We have a mixed use zoning alternative or incentives, in particular in our sports and entertainment district, which provides for substantial opportunities for mixed use development. We're seeing that as evidenced by some development that's currently going on. We've been active in using planned unit development zoning to provide relief for certain zoning code requirements. But I can't say that any of the other items on that question could be checked. Okay, then moving on to question B5.
So with the connectivity policy or standards, I guess we don't necessarily have the standard, but we have a plan.
Yeah. So is it a policy or is it a plan? Because the policy says this is what you're going to do. The plan is kind of what you hope you're going to do. And that's kind of where I was teetering on.
So what I'm getting out of this is, we have a lot of work to do before we can even apply, but this is good that we're doing this so we know what to do.
Right.
We know, I guess we know where we stand now, and we know kind of the areas we have to work on, which was, what I view this at is, this is just going to help us move forward and do better in the future, and it's going to kind of be a learning tool. And at least from my viewpoint, it certainly has been after 3 questions.
You want to keep going through the questions, or you guys you want to just?
I'm kind of in the same part as you. I'm with you that we need to do this. But and this is exactly what we talked about the last meeting. Let's review it. Let's understand what our needs are to meet the requirements. And let's start picking it apart and taking a piece of it and making it part of our work. Because it's going to take some time to put this together. But in my mind, to just apply, to say you applied, and you got a status, I would like to work on it to make sure we meet.
I wrote through these questions, and some of
this.
this stuff, I don't even understand what it is. I don't know, the connectivity policy or standards, I can kind of have a vision of what that might be, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think, and part of it too, so if you look at question B4, a lot of the answers that are on here are really truly, to be honest with you, outside the scope of this committee. Right? You can certainly advocate for certain components like mixed use development or a form-based zoning code, but now you're getting into some kind of mucky waters, legislatively mucky waters that other committees are going to have direct involvement, right? Plan Commission's going to want to be involved. Site Plan Review Commission's going to be involved. Now, when you get to things like a connectivity policy or standard, you could certainly define it, right? So if there are sidewalks present, then you need to provide connectivity within a site plan from your front door to the adjacent sidewalk within the right. Or if, like as an example, we updated our code this last year on site plans. Where no sidewalk is present as part of a redevelopment, you have to include sidewalks in your site plan, around the perimeter or around the adjacency of the development. Same thing with subdivisions. We now require sidewalks to go in subdivisions. So that's part of the connectivity policy, is that anything new, anything that gets redeveloped gets X. And I think that's certainly within the context of this, or confines of this committee. The other thing that you could take into account for, and maybe we have this in the plan, but we could beef it up a little bit and add some weight behind it, is, and it ties to maybe some of the prior questions. When a road is scheduled to be reconstructed, and it's a collector or arterial road, or a road that is shown in the bike and ped plan to have X number of facilities added to it, that it is the policy of the village to add them at that time. Right? So if Cormier Road is going to get reconstructed, we know Cormier has been designated to have sidewalks. When it gets reconstructed, they get sidewalks. That's the policy. Marley, Ori, some of those other project areas, those things are going to be done. Right? And so that's the policy. So just kind of taking it beyond just a kind of planned recommendation to a firm, hard policy that gives a sound direction to staff then when projects come up, that we know exactly what we need to accomplish. Okay, so if I'm hearing everyone correctly, I don't know that there's a genuine interest in going through each individual question, unless you want to.
At this time, no. And I think at the last meeting, we talked about doing this a little bit every time, or, spending some time at the monthly meetings doing this, but just sort of working our way through it.
I'd like to hear the thoughts of the others. Go ahead. That's exactly what I figure is the other. What are your thoughts?
I didn't realize that when you went through this, Joel, and you put the X's there, I thought that was gonna be our job, so I appreciate that you did that. Because I thought that's what the purpose of bringing you here was, that we were gonna go through and check all the boxes, but you did that, which was great. And I think now that I understand what the rules and the grays are, but I think my opinion is, it boils down to, we have an excellent bike and ped plan, but they want policies, ordinances, and codes. And what policies, ordinances, and codes do we have? And that may take this committee looking at, well, what does the site plan do? That would be, what's the plan commission do? What are their policies? We probably have a lot of it, but not all of it. We just don't know it. Because we don't know what the other commissions do. So that's why we have so many people on it.
I look at all this stuff here and I think it's beyond our committee.
Yeah.
I really do.
Joel, are there any highlights that, as you were going through it, that maybe are more important than others, that maybe you want to point out?
Well, I do want to point out a couple sections quickly. So you get kind of the section, well, still in section B, but we start talking about end of point facilities, or end facilities, so bike racks, bike hubs, things of that nature that oftentimes are going to be located on private property. So there is one question in here that does request, you can answer it, don't know. But at some point, it would probably be beneficial to inventory kind of those end-of-point facilities. So secure bike parking. So if I'm a user, if I'm a bicyclist, I want to know that if I'm going to bike to a store or to my employer, I have a secure bicycle storage area for me to put my bike, right? A lot of that, if we're going to be a bike-friendly community, we want to encourage private property owners and developers to incorporate that as part of their design. And we do that now, but how much of it has actually been done? So then one of the application questions is, do you have an inventory of all this stuff? And we simply don't. So just trying to understand what benefit that is to this group at this time.
Wouldn't that inventory be changing though? I mean, not only people adding things in, but due to other stuff, things being taken out. What they put in bike parking, and then all of a sudden, we don't want it here anymore. No one's using it.
You'd have to
yeah. I don't know. How does that? I know you can't talk, but how, from your experience, Tracy, how does one manage that? And just in trying to stay on.
Just inventorying, right? And
Right.
it's just a matter
I
of
guess it's,
constant.
well, yeah, it's no different than inventory anything else, and granted, our ordinances now require commercial businesses to put in bicycle racks and meeting the APBP standards for putting them in. So if they take them out, they're really in violation of our ordinance, so.
But how do we know?
But how do you know? You don't, it's keeping track of that stuff, you're right,
I'm sure there's an ordinance that says how many handicap parking spots your
Yeah.
business has to have. But if somebody knocks a sign down and never put it up, or the pavement gets destroyed or gets painted over, are we really checking that too? If someone complains, we would.
Right.
But otherwise, it's pretty hard. There's a lot of things that's pretty hard to keep track of.
So one of the areas I also do want to point out is around question B14, and it talks about this bicycle network worksheet. And then the question prior to that talks about the current bicycle network in the map. So we have not, and to my knowledge anyway, updated our bike facility or pedestrian facility map since the last time we updated our plan. So my thought process would be a fewfold. One, we haven't updated our bike and ped plan since 2018, so it's really due for a refresh. And that mapping exercise would be a component of that activity, so definitely want to do that. But then in doing so, we would collect the inventory data that's necessary to complete the application, and that's found in section B14. There's a blue hyperlink right there, and it brings up this spreadsheet that I'm going to hopefully show on my screen.
Anytime I ask Tracy this, you can answer this. What is APBP guidelines?
AP is the Association of Bicycle
AP associated
Association of Bicycle and Pedestrian
pedestrian bicycle.
Professionals.
Professionals, yes.
Pedestrian.
And they have the guidelines for types of bike racks you should put in, where they should be located, what size they should be, all of that stuff. So the village did incorporate that in our ordinances last year, I believe. So when they put in a bike rack, they're putting the right type in and locating it. So that's the document that tells them how to do that. So it would help them to do that.
So again, question B14 asks for us to complete this table and then submit it. And I think we have some data, obviously, based on information we've collected back in 2018, but it really just needs a refresh. So we got to go out and count centerline miles based on the different types of facilities that they've identified, on the spreadsheet, and then correlate that to a speed that's designated on that particular street. So it's just some field data that needs to be collected and some time spent out verifying information that we have in the system. So it hasn't been done for quite some time, and there has been some improvements, so we want to make sure that that's up to date. And then in addition to that, they ask for the same, but for planned facilities. So again, that refresh of the bike and ped plan, I think, would be advantageous for us to complete this application, because now we can take that information and incorporate it into this table. This is, out of all the items within the application, this was the one that I was most worried about, taking a considerable amount of staff time, because we'd have to go out and field verify everything, grab the information, grab the points, bring it into the GIS system, enter it into GIS, and then basically run reports and run data to get the centerline miles on. So it's not hard work. It just takes some time. It just takes somebody's physical time to go out and check things.
Sounds like a good intern project.
It'd be a great intern project. So let me go back again.
Can you guys remind me again for this one? So once you get this certification, obviously there's the benefit of being able to advertise that and announce that, but were there other pieces for this certification? Are they tied to other things, or is there are you more like grant money Or like, was it more specific for that we're looking for to get dollars by having this certification?
That can help. I think Stephanie hit on that when she was here from Green Bay and explained what the benefit of that for grant purposes.
I think along with that, and then we thought this would be beneficial to us for guidelines moving forward to understand what we don't have and what we maybe need to do. Because I see this isn't happening next month or it's down the road, but there's a lot of benefit in digging into these, right? And getting to the point where so I'd be curious, you don't have to answer if you're not, when you bike, because you guys bike all over, do you look into something like this to see if these places belong to this organization? If you go to some city, let's say you were going to Portland or, I don't know, let's take some other place. Let's say Madison, Wisconsin. You live here, but you're from another state. Would you look into this to see, not this, to see if they meet, or if they're platinum, or if they're...
Well, if a community is designated as a bicycle-friendly community, it obviously will maybe bring more people in. Draw people in because they know that community thinks about bicyclists and maybe designs their community or makes it easier for you to move through it by bike. So it is something that could potentially help with economic impact.
If I'm going to another city and I see that they're a platinum city, I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm gonna take my bike and spend an extra couple of days and ride around.
And I'm not saying that because we don't want to do this. I'm saying I'd be curious for somebody that really does biking like you do. Do you use this as a resource to see where that particular city's at? And I'm sure in the future it's going to become more commonplace because there's more people deciding that.
One of the questions that was in here, are you connected to another community that has applied and received designated status? And we would be at the city of Green Bay. So I suspect that if you are designated as this, it could be an opportunity for tourism marketing. Say if you're coming to visit Green Bay or the Green Bay area, Green Bay, Ashwaubenon are bicycle-friendly communities as designated. Bring your bike, spend an extra day, and check out all the cool things that are going on beyond just Packers training camp facilities or something like that.
And since the Green Bay Visitor Bureau is in Ashwaubenon now, right?
Ashwaubenon. They don't advertise that. They advertise Green Bay. Takes me off.
We'll put a big sign up. We'll put a big sign up in the parking lot.
The other thing I'll mention too that I think is there's an opportunity for further partnership in the application process is there are some questions about transit and mass transit facilities within the engineering section. Our Metro Transit group does an exceptional job of making sure that every bus has bicycle racks on each bus. They have training videos on how to actually install your bike. So it's kind of, if you haven't done it before, it can be confusing to some. It can be a little intimidating, but they've done their good job. But transit is changing, and it's changed over the last probably year and a half where they're moving away from these large fixed route systems to more of these like Uber Lyft style micro transit components with smaller facilities and smaller buses. And so I'm not sure. I need to talk to the transit director to see if I do not believe that their micro transit buses have bike racks installed on them yet. And I do not know if they allow for bikes to be brought on board as in transport. So oftentimes there's actually indoor biking parking inside a lot of the larger facilities if they don't have adequate space on their front mounted bike rack. So there could be an opportunity for further partnering then with transit to encourage more coordination between bicyclists and transit users.
So some of the funding for the reason that they added so much this year to the thing. So I guess that's what, so all of this stuff is new. Because I remember that when we looked at it last time, with like filling out the application now versus before. Like there's so many things that were bulked up, and that's I'm just assuming that some of it probably be able to break down all the different facilities to a more of a micro level. Can
They-
you
I
determine
think
where
they've
they're
had-
at for some of that?
They've had their application for a lot of years. They've done the bicycle friendly
Yeah.
community for long, and they revamped it and then they added in the equity component. So that's what a lot of the questions focus on, equity that you see, the blue ones that are highlighted.
Yeah.
So that's one of the major changes, but they also did some other things.
Yes, was there any other questions or comments on the first section? And if not, would the committee like to have us as staff just kind of go through and very anecdotally, at a very high level, answer the questions for each section and then bring those to committee, one section per meeting, and you can discuss it and kind of get a better understanding of what's being asked, and maybe you can identify areas that you would like us to focus on as a collective group?
I think so. That's my opinion.
I think it's helpful having some of the answers. I feel like some of it we wouldn't know.
Right. Well, that's it. I go through here, I look at all, and,
What's presented to somebody that in today's world in Ashwaubenon that wants to open a business on the bicycle angle? Your site plan or whatever, do they get something that says, these are our rules, you were seeing with the bike?
They do, they have a whole packet of information they get for site plan review, and then in there, one of the sections would be bicycle and pedestrian facilities. And then it would talk about the APDP requirements for a bike rack. So yeah, it's a pretty large document, does everything from landscaping to parking to everything under the sun is in there, but that's.
Well, I
part
wouldn't
of
be
that.
interested in, I'd be more interested in knowing what the piece is for our part.
Yeah,
Like
and Kyle
that-
looks at those.
Yeah.
For the committee, he reviews the plans.
Just to see where that fits, probably a small piece of this.
Yeah, I get a copy of the plan, I look through that and try as best I can to read through that document, and then I just make a couple of recommendations as far, and I'm looking at, is there, we make a recommendation, and it's always been, bike parking, sometimes, if it's a large business with a lot of employees, I'll say, we want some inside bike storage for when these people ride to work, or, where are the sidewalks gonna be, or, when Chick-fil-A came, one of the concerns was people walking from the sidewalk across 3 lanes of drive-through traffic or whatever. So I kind of look at it from bicycling and pedestrian, where are the crosswalks and where's access? So then I can make some recommendations. And some of the committees make conditions. Say, if you want this, you have to do this.
That was my question. Do we have a policy or do we have recommendations?
We make recommendations. So there's a document and there's 2 sections. And I think probably every committee and everybody in the village that might be concerned, looks at it. And, some places will say, you have to do this. And probably if there's a code, you have to have so many garage doors. They look at the landscaping, they look at the lighting, they look at the wastewater drainage.
Yeah, a good example that would relate to this committee, so a site plan might show where bicycle parking and storage is located, but not specify that it's meeting our design standard for EPD. So the staff condition would be, must meet the design standard for X. So it's all directly tied to code. If it wasn't tied to code, we would have no way to enforce it. So it's just maybe and we take a pretty proactive approach in ensuring people get through the approval process pretty quickly here. So rather than hold them up another month because they didn't state this bike rack is going to meet that standard, you will approve it, condition on that you do install it.
Okay, you're working with them. Yeah, well, where I'm going with that is that, to me, that's just one more reason that we should be doing this. Because we can tie that in with, over time, right? We may learn more from this document that maybe should be a part of that. Maybe not. Maybe not, I don't know. So,
think one of the things that, for me as a relatively newcomer into the community and looking through the bike and ped application, that could be a little confusing. I shouldn't say application, but the bike and ped plan, and then how that relates to the application, is this idea of what policies and recommendations are. And what I mean by that is when you look through our bike and ped plan, we have, and as an example, roads that are designated as bicycle routes. And then we have roads that are identified for either existing or future bicycle lanes. But there's not a real clear definition or criteria of what road should get a route versus what road should have designated lanes. And then what does that officially mean lawfully, let's say, as to what a route is? Does it just mean that a sign saying, hey, we encourage bicyclists? I don't know that the plan necessarily identifies that. So that could be a good first start in defining what a route is versus what designated lanes are, and in what application would you use a route versus a dedicated lane. Now, to me, I understand, a lane is going to have many restrictions to it. You're going to restrict parking, all that type of stuff, and maybe the route was an opportunity to not restrict parking, but still encourage bicycling. But that's fine, but let's develop a policy that states what is it, number one, and number two, in what application is it used.
Any other questions or any other discussion, guys? And then I guess we should get some feeling on where you want to go with this. You want to keep moving along, have another section come to the next meeting, just so staff knows what you would like to do with this.
I haven't heard from a few other people, but I'm on board with Kyle. I believe we should take a section at a time, as you suggested. Let's go through it. Let's not try to eat the elephant. And I think from there we'll learn more. And at some point we'll probably have to ask the board if we can use some resources. We'll know that, right? Based on what we discovered going through each. And I know Tracy can't speak, but I am all for that. We should do this because I think we're gonna learn a lot more than what we realize right now.
Yeah, I agree.
It's cumbersome. I get it. I look at it and I go, why do we want to do this? But then I look at it and I say, tough things are worthwhile at times. This is one of those tough things.
My only question too would be, would we be better off to be, because I think, yes, it makes sense to go through and look through all of things, and I think I agree, you can learn a lot from it without submitting and doing all of that. But just because we've all referenced the bike and ped plan about 100 times since we've been in here, and also a question about 100 things in it, I question if we're going in the wrong order, if we should be going through the bike, if we should have a better, because to answer the questions, if we're going to answer a bunch of them with, I think, in front of it, I just wonder if we should have a better understanding of our current plan so that then when we're going through this, we can truly know what we need and what we don't versus kind of right now. I feel like, at least personally, maybe I just need to brush up on the bike and ped plan, which could be, but I feel like I would be guessing at a lot of that to be saying like, well, do we have it written this way or that way? Like I would need to go look that up, or maybe that's how we do it. But then I think we would need to do smaller sections. Like maybe we need to break this down even smaller. So we're going to go over this, but then we're going to pull out the plan and reference so we can make sure we're answering it correctly. Just because otherwise I feel like if we go through and put the work in, because I agree, I think most things that are a lot of work are worth it, but I want to make sure if we're putting the work into it, and then we're also saying we're going to do the bike and ped plan, like which one comes for, I don't know, or are we going to almost be working against ourselves? I feel like there's multiple ways we could do it. It's just picking which way and then sticking with it through the whole thing.
To me, if we look at this and we say, well, the plan doesn't really say, that tells us we need to fix the plan. If we go through the plan and then we come back to this, we say, oh, we should have adjusted that, but we changed the plan. So, but you're right. I think either way has its advantages. But by taking this smaller pieces and then at the same time comparing the plan, that's the key, is to look at both of them together.
I think this is overwhelming. And I think that if I would do it, I would even, I mean, there's a lot in here, but we didn't do what we had wanted to do. We didn't go through the questions. That's why I think it's overwhelming. We could take half of this and discuss it.
Oh,
Because we're
absolutely.
not-
Well,
So I
much
don't
less than
think, so
half.
I think next meeting, don't go and have Joel do something else, but we can discuss this. And then I think that we need to write down who are we going to go to get the answers. If we don't know who, we didn't do that. And then we can make a list. Oh my gosh, we have to go to this person for so many things and this person for so many things. I think that's what we have to do because we don't know the answers. Who, if we don't know who to go to, then we'll just put Joel's name down.
You're the default.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's why Joel's suggestion was to take a little small section of it at a time,
Yeah.
because he may be able to answer those questions while we're doing that section and say, you're gonna have to go to these people to get the answers to that, because I'm not gonna have them. Or this is gonna take a number of hours and we're gonna have to get approval to designate a person to do this.
And I think we have to go through this and put NA not applicable, why is it not applicable? And I think in the application, we need to know that because we're a small, I mean, we don't have all of the accommodations that a larger city does. You know, so I think some of them, I was looking through, some of it's just not applicable to us.
There are
Instead of
questions
not-
here regarding light rail. We don't have any light rail.
Absolutely. So instead of leaving the box blank, I think for the sake of the application, we put down not applicable. We don't have this here, and that would be saving whoever does the final, final thing.
Yeah, I agree. We just need to take this in small bites and just see what we don't know.
There's a lot of questions in here that Joel won't be able to answer.
Oh,
yeah. No worries. No, I mean, there's no, I mean,
I think part of the problem with this piece right here, Joel just picked out engineering, so it's one component, so that's a good thing, but it's big. And also he picked out one piece. No one really had a chance to look at it before, because you guys didn't get your packets before. And then no one understood, well, what is the shading? What is this grading? What is this? Did Joel fill this out? No one understood any of that. So we're sitting here talking about this and we haven't had a chance to really look at it and dig into it and understand. And maybe what we should do is bring this section back to the next committee meeting and give you guys a chance to look at it. And see, Joel did a good job on this. He looked at it, he went through it, but we did not understand what was done. And we weren't cognizant of it because we didn't have it ahead of time to look at it. So that would be kind of my recommendation, to at least step back and take a look at it. I probably shouldn't be recommending, but, and just, and do it that way, and then see where we're at, and, you know, go on from there.
There's certainly no rush to this whatsoever. You can take it as you see fit, or how you feel comfortable with it. I think there's certain validity to certainly both Jessica and Kyle's points, is that as you go through it, there are things in here that probably you're like, oh, we never really talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
We never talk about end of trip facilities, do we?
Right.
We talk about bike racks, but we never think about it in the context of end of trip facilities. And so we really, in our bike and ped plan for that matter, haven't really talked about end of trip facilities, right? Connectivity. We don't, for whatever reason, we just simply do not have a sound, solid, up-to-date inventory of our current facilities to give us a good indicator of our connectivity. So that could be another area where once we get that inventory data and we look at it like, boy, this is where we're missing the beat, right? We have some real breaks in connectivity, and that should be our focus. Maybe transit isn't a focus for you right now. That's okay too, because I think when Stephanie and Natalie were here, they said that you don't have to answer all the questions. Focus on the areas that are important to Ashwaubenon, and let's try to tackle those areas. And then if we feel confident with what we've done, then we submit the application and we get a score. And then we see where we need to work on it. And then again, we continue to work on those low-hanging fruit. But I would argue that the areas that you want to put your emphasis on are the areas that are important to Ashwaubenon.
Yeah.
The other thing is, as I scroll through this, like this page, reference the 7 principles of bicycle network design in the FHWA's bicycle selection guide. If we're really serious about this, at least could we have one of those here at the table and we not run off for
We did that.
everybody, not for everybody, but just so we can refer to it.
Well,
Because-
that's our homework while we're going through the section. Just look it up.
Look it up. It doesn't have a webpage, so it doesn't have probably a link. Nah.
You guys would read that and your mind would just go,
Oh,
I don't
really?
get any.
Okay. so
It's a
that's-
federal document to
Oh,
help
Read that when I'm trying to
engineers
sleep at
and
night.
engineers design facilities. So it's a document that says all stop signs should be red and they should be octagonal shape. So the state, the federal government, so when you're driving in Utah or you're driving in Wisconsin, you know what it looks like and you know what a stop sign is. So that's what that document does. It's huge. And it addresses all motor vehicle, bicycle and pedestrian.
So my
Signage
question,
and
what should we know, like anything with FH that's federal that is big, but like NACTO, Urban Bikeway Design Guide, are those things that we need to look at or not? I'm getting, like, is that too?
Well, and the engineer knows, see, that's the thing, staff understands this stuff. We don't necessarily, you guys don't necessarily have to understand that, you know what I mean? It's something that our engineer knows, that Joel knows, that they should be looking at when they're designing facilities and that's part of their job. It's no different than any standards that you have, the jobs that you have.
You know, look at it from the standpoint of the end user. So if you're out on the street from a people-focused perspective, where do you find conflicts, right? You find crossings conflicted. You know, I hate to beat a dead horse, but it's just so easy on the end of trip facilities. You want to leave your home and you want to bike to a store, then you think to yourself halfway there, where am I going to put my bike? I got a $1,500 bike and where am I going to lock it up? So then you're consciously thinking, or you're out biking on the Ashwaubenon Trail and you get a flat tire. You're like, I'm 5 miles from home. I wish I had a bike hub down over at this trailhead facility because then I could just walk there with my bike and quick repair my tire. So think about it from the end user's perspective. That's what you're kind of should be focusing on. The technical aspects of it will be those expert engineers, those traffic planners, things like that. So you're really focused more on the policy and the things versus the technical aspect. We can deliver it for whatever that outcome you want to desire. Our engineers and our consultants and our assistants and all that good stuff, they can get us there. It's just a matter of what do you want it to look like at the end. And then I'll also preface, you know, what will Ashwaubenon tolerate, right? What will they expect? I don't think Ashwaubenon's a community that expects bike lanes or sidewalks on every street. I think that would probably irritate a few people, right?
We're probably never gonna get green bike lanes.
We
That's
might-
never
we
gonna
might
happen.
not.
We're not gonna have a bike box in an intersection. That's all stuff that, you know,
Right.
is different and
Not right now, anyway.
Yep. me someday. I'm dead. All right, anybody have any other input into it or anything?
So I think from what I'm hearing is we'll bring back the existing elements. I'll go through it again, because again, I went through it at a high level. There are a few elements that I can kind of scrutinize a little bit more with that idea that, well, our plan is available and it is our guiding document, so maybe we can identify those areas and I can update it and include it in the packet for the next month, and we can review those areas again. I would encourage the group to just kind of put together notes and questions that they have on that section,
Yes, yeah.
and then we can kind of go through those questions as they come up.
So are you talking about a specific section now that we should be?
Just the one that was in
The
your.
one that we
Okay.
had, we'll use that one.
Okay,
again
we're gonna
and
use that one.
relook at that at the next meeting.
All right.
So that, which is good because it gives us 4 weeks to look at this, to go through this.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we come to a meeting and everything is new to us, so it's good that we.
I think what I'll do then too is I'll prepare the next one as well, the next section, and hand that out at the next meeting so that you have another 4 weeks.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Good idea.
So do we need to have our plan available to us? at the same
And
time?
you know, maybe, I don't know if anybody has, Linda, if I forgot this, but maybe bring the plan along.
The
You
one
know,
that we had at the last meeting?
This
you mean?
this is our bicycle pedestrian plan, so bring it along if you have one. If you don't, let's hear, you know, is that okay, or
So they should reach
And
out
she'll
to-
send us a link and we can print it off on our printers at home.
No.
Or she could, yeah, I mean, it's
We'll
huge.
print it off.
Yeah.
You guys
Yeah,
can
if
get
you need hard
Yeah.
copies, let us know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll send you the link. I'll
That's a lot of print.
That's a lot of ink.
If you need a hard copy, we can print
This is dated.
because
I think I still have it.
Yeah, so if you need one, should you reach out to Terry or Kelly? Who do you want to be the contact, you guys?
we
Why
can do
don't-
it.
why don't you
We
make
have
it-
we have the binding machine over here, so.
I've never even seen it.
But I'll CC Kelly on it so that she knows where it is then too.
Okay, all
That
right.
sound good?
So should we reach out to Kelly if you need one then, or Terry?
I'll have Terry email the group
Okay,
tomorrow with the link, because it's on our
Got it.
website right now.
yep,
And if you desire a hard copy, just reply back to Terry.
There you go.
So that she knows, and then we can print and bind copies for everybody.
sounds good. Okay, anything else on that subject, guys? Otherwise we will, the next bike ped committee is March 13th. No, that's today. The next one is April 10th, sorry about that. April 10th is our next meeting. So agenda items for the next meeting, we'll bring the one back that we talked about right now. Joel will get the next piece that he'll just hand out, that we'll look at, and then take that to the next meeting.
We're bringing this back.
Yes, that's second. So please look at it if you have time, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Joel. Ask him if you have any questions on what this is, or what that is, or why he said no to this, or yes to that. I'm sure he'd be happy to address that with you. The other thing I was wondering if we put on agenda, we could talk about the Bell and Surgery Center and the pedestrian facilities, if it's ever become that's finalized, or where that's at, just because that building keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I was thinking about the other day, so if we can maybe get an update on that on the agenda. And then I don't know if we need to talk about the bike plan. It's usually every 5 years that we redo one, so maybe just to get a general discussion on when do we need to update this, where we're at on this, so we can maybe put that and just kind of update us again on that and how that would fit into everything. Anything else, anybody for the agenda for next one? So, okay, then I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion. We adjourn.
Thank you, Leroy.
Sorry about that.
Anyone else want to yawn and do the second? I'll second. Okay, Linda, a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you April 10th.